No, we look after our guests here on the Crooked Smile podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We do. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today.
Pleasure.
I've actually really been looking forward to this one for a couple of months now because we've been in the talks for a couple of months and we've finally got it in.
Pushing it off as much as I can.
You were born in a cult.
Yes. Yeah, I was born into a cult.
That to me is so fascinating because obviously in Perth, WA, it's a very kind of isolated place. Everyone kind of knows everyone, but I don't think there's a lot of cults in Perth. You'd be surprised maybe, but
I've done the research. Yeah, like I said, I didn't even know I was in a cult until you leave it.
So I'm so fascinated about how all that works. I guess for context, you grew up in Canada?
I grew up in a couple countries, but Canada mostly. Yep.
Is that where the main cult was? Is it an international cult? What's the context? I really want to learn as much as I can about this because I find this stuff so fascinating.
No, so essentially it's a Korean cult, Korean church, still existing. I say cult because it is one of those hey, what's happening? They do a lot of things differently from a lot of other churches. The biggest thing is they do arranged marriages. So essentially, big room, many people, girls one side, guys one side, and the guy would go around and match people up, and you're married. And that's what happened in my life. Yeah. But Korean church, I was born in Mexico because my parents were doing mission work in Mexico City.
Mission work?
Mission work, as in finding more people for the church.
Oh, I thought you meant as in some sort of MI6 operation.
No. When you say mission church, yeah, it's just missionary work.
Right. So the church has people internationally going around looking for people to join it.
Connecting them to God, as you would say. But yes, every country you will find.
So it's a pretty big church.
It's big. Yeah.
How many people are in this?
I couldn't tell you. It is
thousands, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands.
It's a lot. We're talking about countries. It's grown. It's been around for a long time. It is people born into it. But yeah, every time we go to gatherings, I've been to a couple gatherings in South Korea, and you walk around just wow, we can fill stadiums.
Are you born into it?
I was born into it, yeah.
So your parents were obviously in it as well, and they were born into it? Or?
Yeah, so mom joined in Europe.
Or was recruited?
Yeah, could potentially recruited, but again, people say, hey, do you want to learn a little bit more about Christ, God? And they got pulled into a seminar and they were enticed. And obviously, look, the philosophy behind the church cult is very sound in terms of the way to live, I guess, give and take, all that sort of stuff. There's nothing really far left or far right in terms of their philosophy, but it's very different because it is essentially what's called a unification church, the official name. So it's unifying all Christian churches into one church. That's a pretty big feat in itself. Imagine going to another church and say, hey, I think you guys could work better together. And they're like, nah, we do things very differently here. So it's a big thing and unifying. And in a sense, over the years, people looked at it as it's a cult because who wants to unify churches? Who wants to stop wars? Things like that.
And then growing up in that, is on a day-to-day basis, you're very involved in it, or it's kind of like a thing in the back end of your life?
That's a good question. Look, it's like a way of life. It's like you're a Christian, you go to church on Sundays, you just make sure you do good during the week.
Is there a lot of touch points with the community though? You're doing a bunch of stuff every week, or is it just purely like a Sunday church session?
It's mostly Sunday. You can do stuff during the week. They've got children's activities. You can do service work during the week. But you basically want to resonate what you learn on Sundays during the week. So constantly giving, people pleasing, things like that.
And is there a leader of the cult? Yeah,
so the leader of the church, his name was Reverend Sun Myung Moon. I think he passed away. Well, he did pass away a while back, about 10 years ago. And then the family's taken over. So he's got a big family, many children. So his wife, Reverend Hak Chum Han Moon, has taken over the church, and she's basically the church leader at this point in time. And
was he the one that would walk around the church pointing and matching people?
Yeah, that was his job. Yeah.
At what point did you realize it wasn't normal? And how do you realize it's not normal? Because it's all you know because you've grown up in it.
Look, I think, I think when I came out of my mission work, I spent a couple of years traveling through Europe, door-to-door sales, raising money for the church, doing,
Oh, was that for the church?
yeah.
I thought that was because context, we know each other and you've told me about
Yeah.
that before. I thought that was just for you to fund your trip in Europe.
Well, it was, but it wasn't. It was the church. Yeah, so.
So that's how they make their money, is they get everyone to go out and kind of do work for them.
Yeah, you're raising money for the church, essentially. Yeah. So it's called STF, as a Special Task Force. I was there for...
Mission work with the STF.
Yeah, I have shirts on it. It says STF on it. But yeah, day to day, just wake up at 5, do your pledge in the morning for what you're doing for the day, have breakfast at 6, and then pretty much out the door by 6:30, and then till like 5, 6, you're door knocking, businesses, raising money.
But there's no one watching over you if you're in Europe alone, or are you with a group of people? Like, is there someone there making sure you're doing the right things?
Yeah, so you've got teams. So special task force teams. I was in a team of maybe 5 or 6 people, and there's one leader, there's a driver, and then everyone else are just like the ones who are running around fundraising.
And then like that leader is kind of like making sure everyone's like checking in and like doing the cult things that they need to be doing.
They're the ones who are doing the administration. They're the ones making sure you're allocated certain areas. So, for example, I ran a team for a short bit on this
You were
program.
STF team leader.
I was a team leader, yes. Basically assigning teams to different locations of the city. So, for example, we'll go into Switzerland and I'll get a map of the city and I'll delegate a whole section to one member over there, and then another section on this side over here. And if I'm looking at demographics, I'll be like, oh, that section I'll give to someone else, but I might actually tag someone else with them so they can go
Keep a close eye on them.
hopscotch, yeah, just in case, because some areas can be a little bit tricky. And then you just do a midday pickup, pick them up around midday. I said, look, I'll pick you up here around midday, come back, and then we'll have lunch by the park. We'll do a bit of kind of
a debrief
discussion of how things are going. We might do a bit of prayer, and then we will just head back out and do another 5 hours of door to door. And that was a pretty interesting experience.
2 questions from that. Firstly, if there's people doing missions all across kind of the world, how much revenue is this community church, whatever you call it, bringing in?
Yeah, look, I don't have the numbers.
But it'd be a lot.
A lot. Yeah, look, at this point in time, the money would go back into the church, and then there was Service for Peace, SFP, Service for Peace, and we would do service work after our condition, like for example, we do like 30 days or 60 days of conditioner going around selling stuff, and then after that, we'll go off to Slovakia, Croatia, Albania, and we'll allocate ourselves for at least 2-3 weeks in a little village, and we'll help build a school. We'll do some painting, but we'll put the money back into the community. So
okay, so that's kind of like good.
Yeah, that was good. And then sometimes we'll do kind of trips. So for example, we'll take the whole team from Europe. We'll head off to Korea, and we'll do 30 days in Korea, traveling through, getting to meet the different churches and doing service work as well. So, yeah.
So a lot of this is actually good, is what you're saying?
I'm saying it's good. I mean, like it's, there's a lot of hype around the cult saying a lot of bad stuff. And I think the cult status was given because a lot of families lost their children from the church. Children would disappear and would disconnect from their families because they were so devoted into the mission. And then for at least 30 years, people would classify them as a cult because why would these people leave and come back?
Children would get recruited.
Not children, as in like...
Young adults would get recruited.
Correct.
And would fully disappear and like have no contact with their family?
Well, we didn't have SMSs back in those days and things like that.
But they wouldn't even say they're leaving, they'd just get up and go.
They would say they leave, but then a lot of families would get really like, who's this? And then try to get them to stay in, and, it's like Satan's telling you to don't go, where they're like, God says I need to do this. And then so there was a lot of division and a lot of controversy during those years.
So then what was the church called again, sorry?
The Unification Church.
So the Unification Church would then provide housing for people and income for people as long as they're like either servicing the church or going on missions, basically.
Yeah, essentially they have establishments. They've got a lot of assets in the organization around the world. I could literally just fly to London now and I have a place to crash. I can go to
Oh,
Barcelona.
so you're still technically in the church?
No, I've
You've just got connections.
you get connections. If you build connections through your life in the church, and look, we're not like other organizations where they completely disconnect you. Very much still well connected with a lot of friends around the world, and any city I could literally fly to and have someone to call up. And I wouldn't never met them before and say, hey, I'm a second gen. They're like, you've got a place to stay. Yeah, it's interesting.
Wow. And then in terms of like career and pathway, when you're part of the church, do they kind of push you in this direction? They'll let you go and get a career in whatever kind of industry you want.
Yeah, so they did give us an opportunity to get into the church, to do a lot of to give back,
To do God's work.
to do God's work. I had that kind of fork in the road experience in Sydney where I was like, would I spend my rest of my life devoting time to the church? And I think I took the right turn. I wanted to do something that's a little bit more ambitious and I went into hospitality and studied and got a degree in hotel management.
Well, I'm very keen to get into how you left it and how everything's gone since, but there's a few things I still want to cover within it. So when you're in Europe and you're door knocking, and then you say you told me you were selling like a small little item, was it?
Yeah, so we purchased flower cards from Slovakia.
Cards, that's it.
Yeah,
Yep.
we got them for like 5 cents, 5 cents, and then we sold them for €5.
Yeah.
So the profits are good.
But then in terms of opening up the conversation to join the church after you'd make a sale, is that what would happen? Or you're purely just doing that to make money for the church?
Make money for the church.
So in terms of missions for recruiting, then how does that work?
Then that would be a witnessing. We would basically be allocated. So I was selected to go to Dublin, and I was in Dublin for about 2 months, and essentially just would walk around and stop people on the street and say, hey, how are you? And have a conversation and explain to them about the principle. It's the book, The Divine Principle of the church. And then say, would you be interested to come back to the church center? And I can give you a bit of a run through on the philosophy. And sometimes kids who are like, teenagers would be like, yeah, I'm keen, or even young adults, and come in and we'll run through about, the basic philosophy of the church. And you'd be surprised. A lot of people found it very interesting. It's like the next level from the Bible in some ways.
In terms of a conversion rate, like how many people do you reckon you'd stop on the street, and how many would then be invited into the church, and then how many from there do you reckon you'd get to join?
That's a sales funnel there. Look, you have to go through a lot of people. So maybe out of 20, you might get one who's interested, like 1 or 2. And then out of those 1 or 2, you might probably get, let's say 20, you get 2 who are interested, 1 would come back. And you have to do that day by day.
Right. So in your time, how many people do you reckon you've recruited?
It's
Were you like the Michael Jordan of the community when it came to recruiting?
It's not so much recruiting. I think it's just giving them opportunity. I think out of the whole time I was in Dublin, I had probably 2 that joined the church. More than would have potentially come back later on. I have no idea. It's not
and
like
you get like a little commission for getting them in, or the church like boosts you up in like the leaderboards of, or there's too massive to know.
I'm giving back. It's get nothing for it. No.
Yeah, right. So how long were you in this sort of phase of your life for?
So Europe was about 3 years.
And that was like 19 to 21 or?
Yeah, 19 to, like let's say 18 to 21. It was one of those, I finished high school in Sydney. And again, another fork in the road. Do I go to university? I wanted to go into uni. I put 8 unis on the list, and I didn't do too well in my high school. And they chose the last one, which was out in Wagga Wagga down in
New South Wales.
Yeah, that's right. And I was like, Charles Sturt University in Wagga Wagga. It's, no thanks. What's on the next list? And it's like travel. I was like, well, looks like I'm traveling. So that's.
But with the church?
Yes. So I went to Canada for a bit of like about a 2-month period, and then went to Europe and joined the special task force and went with it. I think after it was initially a bit of a struggle to join this
STF,
but then I started seeing benefits from it after about a year, and then I kept sticking to it. And look, it just makes you a better person at the end of the day. Yeah.
And then fork in the road back in Sydney again.
Correct. I think I gave the church an opportunity for me to pump to kind of jump in and to obviously do some stuff for them. They didn't come to the table. I said, look, I've got to look after myself. And then, I bumped into a friend of mine who hadn't seen for a while. And he said, oh, look, I'm doing a bachelor's degree in business in hotel management. I'm like, oh, where's this happening at? And he's like, at the Intercontinental Hotel. And I said, damn, I'm keen. And I went for the orientation day and locked myself in. And they said, do you want to work at the same hotel? And I'm like, yeah, I'll work at the Intercon. And so literally school and hotel were next to each other. And that's how I got into hospitality.
I feel like that's a pretty big decision to make after living your whole life as part of the community.
Yeah, but you still need to make an income and you still need to have I was always ambitious. So regardless, if it wasn't church, it was going to be personal. So and during the traveling through Europe, we stayed in quite a few hotels, sometimes because that's the only place you can go. And I was based out of Poland for about a month, out of Warsaw. And I just remember walking into the Intercontinental Hotel in Warsaw, and I was just like, wow, this place is so good. I would love to work for this kind of hotel down the track. And I think that planted a seed. So when I got back to Sydney and had the opportunity to go work for the Intercon, I was like, hell yeah.
How old were you then?
Probably like 19. 20.
When you started the business degree?
Like 19, 20, I think, fairly young. Yeah.
Okay. And so Europe was before that?
Europe was before that, yeah.
Okay, so you're quite young in Europe when you were team leader of the STF.
Mm-hmm.
So, geez.
Yeah, imagine all this kind of responsibilities and placed on a young person.
Well, I was going to say, you'd be so impressionable through those years, especially your teenagehood.
Yeah, I think so. It's like you have to work hard and look, cracking doors in different countries and trying to speak their languages, having to learn how to say something in Polish and in, Gaelic. I was in Iceland, saying things in Icelandic.
So do you know multiple languages now? Or?
I speak a couple other languages, yeah, French and German.
That's a pretty diverse portfolio.
Helps. French because I'm French Canadian, and German because I was raised in Germany.
You were raised in Germany?
Yes, I was part of the mission. My parents, we went from Mexico. We went to USA for about a year, and then we went to Frankfurt. And I was living in Frankfurt for about 3 or 4 years.
How's that, moving around your whole childhood from country to country? Are you staying in nice places? Is it like a stable household, or is it a shit show?
No, everything that my parents gave was phenomenal. Like, the experiences were great. Dad was a reporter. So Dad literally, the reason why we went from USA to Frankfurt was because he got a job working as a reporter out of a agency in Frankfurt. So he had a good job.
When you say agency?
I think it's UPI, Universal Press International. Was
so like a proper outside of the community
Reuters.
job.
Yeah, it was a proper job. And we went to school. I went to high school. I went to kindergarten and high school in Frankfurt, just outside of Frankfurt, called a small town called Bad Zoden. And very interesting in terms of just constantly shifting, obviously learning, things you do when you're with new friends. You just like, I won't do that again. So it kind of helped every single time traveling and moving, just changing myself a little bit. Again, tapping into the people-pleasing experiences. But it crafted me into a better person at the end of the day. Yeah.
In terms of rules or like questioning things, was it not really that type of cult, or like there were certain things you couldn't question or rules you had to abide to that didn't make sense to you growing up?
Yeah, like obviously there's no sex before marriage, no alcohol, no tobacco, a lot of specific rules, relationship with girls, no.
And you abided by all of them, or?
Yeah. I did. Yeah, it's one of those things where only when I came back to Sydney and I got my first job at the Intercon, I was still very much steadfast about alcohol, and people knew that because I would always say no to post-work drinks, and kind of stood out a little bit as a bit of a cock.
I don't think it's bad to not drink.
But at the time, my philosophy was I don't drink alcohol because of, it's not good for you.
I'm there at the moment.
I'm not drinking alcohol?
Yeah, I very rarely drink. Last time I drank, I had an espresso martini when Cheyenne from work left to farewell him.
How'd that go?
It was nice. And then apart from that, Valentine's Day.
Yep.
But like, I'd say I drink less than 3 times a year.
And look, I'm down at that point where I'm like, necessity drinking is not really there. I think the last few times I've gone out, I've actually asked the bartender to make a It's like a ginger ale with some ice and a lime in it to make it look like it's an alcoholic drink. And I'll just be sipping at it the whole night, and people are just like, "Oh, you're you're getting buzzed up." I'm like, "Yeah, 100%."
That's so funny. I get the soda, drink that before it all just. It was looking like it's kind of separating all the stuff inside it, the smoothie drink. Anyways, I get a soda water lime, and it always looks like a G&T to people, but
I think they're selling more non-alcoholic drinks than ever, so it's.
That's like a new generation thing. I think a lot of people, like, 'cause health and wellness is trending and fitness and all that. Like, I do it for other reasons that, like, I'm not going to talk about on camera. But yeah, I guess the other thing I had to ask in terms of the cult stuff. Do you hate when people say cult? Firstly, just sidetrack.
It's a conversation starter. Look, at the end of the day, it was and it is defined as a cult. I have no hard feelings about it. Look, I am where I am today because of my experiences. You know, I've got other friends who've gone through the cult and have negative experiences, and they will speak badly about it. But you know, we are who we are from our experiences, and I've got friends still in the church / cult. So you just work with it. You know, it's like there's no why walk around and hate when you can just appreciate the learnings you've had from it. I wouldn't be in sales right now if it wasn't from my door-to-door knocking sales experience from the church, the cult days.
Are your parents still in it?
Mom is. Dad has left. Yeah.
And his leaving was similar to yours, where he just kind of wanted his own different pathway, or?
I think he had a different calling. I think he went through his own personal challenges and came out of it at the end of the day with just like, no, this wasn't for him. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I think the one big stone that's been left unturned that we haven't really dived into is the arranged marriage part of it.
Oh, okay.
Because I feel like that's a pretty impactful thing on your life as well.
Yeah.
Talk me through that.
Sure.
As long as it's not like a flashback thing that
no.
Sore subject.
It's not a sore subject. No, look, I've got 2 kids out of it, and that's the best thing I've got out of my time on this earth. It's, you know, I've got kids that I can, you know, put a lot of knowledge and experience through. To make a decision to go to the matching process, which is where you go into the room and you get matched. Remember that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Girls and guys one side, goes around for about 5 hours, saying bing, 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 bing.
And that's it. Just off one look.
One look, yeah. And it's spiritual guidance, of course.
But one look from the leader of the Unification Church.
Correct.
And then that's the person you're having kids with.
Correct. Yeah.
Just off his, do you reckon, like, sorry to sidetrack, but do you reckon like he sees a couple of people that he doesn't like in the church and he goes, you're going with you and I know you're not going to be matched? Or is it like?
Well, I think it's like bridging cultural barriers, similar to Romeo and Juliet. So the reasoning behind it wasn't just like, I'm just going to be a power trip and, you know, match people up. It's basically to cross cultural and countries. So my ex is from, the children's mother is from New Zealand. I'm from Australia. We were the first couple that bridged that gap.
So what's your actual ethnicity?
Is this going to be recorded or? So I was born in Mexico. Dad's Canadian, mom's from Finland, and I've been here for some time. Aussie.
That's such a weird hybrid, and then French and German as well in their language.
And it's good because, you know, Dad kept pushing us to go to German school on Saturdays, and then French was from Quebec, and then I did French and German in high school, and traveling a lot. So when you go to Europe, and you keep it up in some ways.
So then you get matched up. How old are you when this happens?
Testing my knowledge, you're 21.
So you're quite young.
Yeah. 21.
And this is before you've started the intercontinental stuff.
Yeah, I think that was about the same time, give or take. Yeah, I think I might have had the job. I went off to come back, and then I was working there.
Can you remember that experience of being in the church and he points at you, then points at someone else?
Obviously you get like that, like anxiety, like who's this? I had a bit of I just didn't want to get stuck with someone that I just wasn't really attracted to. And look, at the end of the day, it was just more like you just have to deal with that. But then, yeah, look, at the end of the day, it just happened. I was like, well, look, she seems to be someone who can go on a hike, and she's not too far away. I don't have to travel across the world to see that person. And then,
so he'll match people that live on other sides of the world, and then they're expected to then live together, or they just have to live, like, it's up to them then to decide what they want to do.
Decide what to do. Yeah, most of them were international marriages. Yeah, they were not from They weren't. That's the whole point of the matching process, was to match cultures and cultures and countries together to bridge those experiences. So, like Palestine and Israel. Imagine if you do quite a few of those, and where's the war going to happen? It's not going to happen, because that's the whole philosophy behind it. It's crossing boundaries.
Australia and New Zealand are like the same thing, though, almost.
Not careful, but yeah.
Internationally.
Internationally, yeah. But it was just more like my brother was married to a Korean, and, Aussie Canadian, and she was in Korea. And now they live in Vancouver.
So they're still together?
Yeah.
And your brother's still part of the church?
I believe he is, yeah. And then I've got my other brother who's married to a girl from Scotland. And she's half Japanese and half Scottish.
So you're one of 3 boys?
One of 4.
Ooh, middle, youngest, oldest?
I'm the oldest.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. I'm one of 3 boys. I'm middle. Middle child's always a golden child. I'm just going to put that out there.
So much pressure on the oldest ones.
George Gavalis knows.
I love it.
That's pretty... I just can't imagine like the stress of sitting in a room knowing that like someone's about to point at you, then point at someone else, and that's like the person you're then going to have to marry and have kids with. And this is also, you've been celibate up until this point.
Correct.
As well.
And so, look, leading up to it, you got to do a lot of work to get to that room. Yeah. So to get...
So it's not like you can just go into it. You have to be chosen.
Not really. You have to set a certain condition to get in. So, for example, one of the conditions to be into the matching process is you have to do a 7-day fast.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah. So 7 days of not eating any food. You can drink water to condition yourself.
Like right before?
It has to happen before that matching process. So it has to happen like literally like within the last 3 to 6 months before the matching process.
So it's like a trial by fire.
It's more like a conditioning by fire. But it's more like you spend your time reading the divine principle during that 7 days. So you're basically learning the word, the content.
And you lock yourself in a room, or?
No, I was working full time. Had HR come to me about 5 days in. They're like, are you fine? Because you've lost a lot of weight in the last week, and do you need anything? And I was like, no, I'm just fasting. Yeah. And so then you do the fasting, and then when you go to Korea, and this is probably going to a little bit more too much detail, but
please get into it. I love this.
There's a bit of a classification process, and so some of my other second gen colleagues here wouldn't probably know that, but you're on a star rating, right? So you can have 5 stars, means you've done really well in life. You haven't dabbled in alcohol, tobacco.
You haven't sinned.
You haven't sinned. I think I was like close to like a 1 or 2 star just because of the couple sins that I did.
Oh, so you were a 1.
Close to it, yeah.
Can you say what sins you committed?
I did go to a French school in Sydney, and that French school is very much into the wacky tobacco kind of culture back then. So I did dabble I did smoke when I was young. I did drink a little bit.
And how does the church know that?
You got to confess. So that was and then there's an interview. So once you go through the interview process and they know exactly what your status is, you go into the matching process, and then you've got a name badge with a star on it. And
you had 1 star on your name badge.
I mean, it's not bad. It's still a star. And then when they go through the matching process, they will generally try to match similar to similar, 5 to 5.
1 to 1.
1 to 1.
So you were matched with a 1 star as well?
I think she might have been 1 or 2, but no one's judging here.
So you have to do a 7-day fast, and
Correct.
then you have to confess all your sins and get a star rating.
Yes.
And then you get put in the room.
So you don't get a star rating, you just go there, and then they already know where you sit.
And then they'll match you on the amount of sins you've committed with a different partner of a different ethnicity.
Correct. Well, it's more like matching you with someone with similar experiences. Right. So let's imagine if you're like someone who's lived a great life of not sinning at all, and then you've got the guy over here who's kind of dabbled a little bit. So it seems to work.
Are all 3 of your brothers all same arranged marriages through the church?
One of them, yes, he was at the same one as I did.
Oh, at the same time?
Same time.
You got married on the same day?
Same time, same day, yeah. So we were matched, and then marriage was like the day after.
Right, so it's like a pretty quick turnaround.
So let me clarify. There's a matching, there's a blessing, and then the marriage happens in your own country.
Take me through that. Take me through that.
You go through the matching, like you and you.
Which is what we just talked about.
Yeah. And then the next day is where you wear your tux and she wears her thing, and it's in a big room. And if you Google it, you can see it, but it's a room full of couples.
And they're all getting married on the same day.
They're getting blessed at the same time. It's the expression blessing. They get blessed to kind of do their thing. And I think there's like 40-day separation after that. So you can't actually do anything for 40 days after that blessing, just to kind of make sure you're not like, jump in a hotel room and do your thing. But it's 40-day separation. And so that gives enough time for you to build a relationship up with them without going through the physical intimacy. And then when you build that relationship up, then in the year or 2, 3 years later, you decide to get married. And then you get married in your own country officially.
So you're still celibate right up until you've been married?
Kind of, yeah.
What do you mean kind of?
Like you're celibate until you get married, essentially.
And then like on wedding night, that's the first time?
Possibly. I can't remember.
You don't have to go into your experience.
It's fine.
It
was actually on day, kidding. No.
So where I was kind of leading with that is your brother that's done the same thing. Is he, and he's still married?
Yeah, no, they're married. They live in Vancouver.
And like happy with the person he's been matched with, or it's something he accepts?
No, they're very happy.
Right.
As if you do the research on arranged marriages, I'm sure a lot of my Indian colleagues would say the same thing. High success rate in arranged marriages.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is what's the divorce rate like for the church arranged marriages?
It's not that big. Look, there is people who do separate, and look, I'm the one who has, but a lot of my friends are still married, happy with children, living their life.
Jeez, that's so much to go through at such a young age.
Yeah. And look, it's just the way of life for someone who's in the church. This is something that we grew up in. So it's not like, it's different. Parents did it. Everyone around you does it.
So it seems normal.
Seems normal. Yeah. Like just imagine being in a Mormon church. Everyone does the same thing. It's like, Salt Lake City. Everyone does the same thing. Yeah.
So leaving the church, like, obviously you said that you had the job at the Intercontinental while doing the business degree for hotel management. Like, at what point do you kind of lose your faith within the church and decide that you're no longer going to be part of it?
Look, I don't think it's necessarily losing the faith. I think the philosophy behind about unifying cultures and unifying churches into one is pretty sound. I mean, there's a lot of division around the world in terms of cultures and churches, and there's a lot of wars, and a lot of wars are driven from religion. So this, it's not like I'm changing. I don't go to church on Sundays anymore, other than I've gone to a couple other churches in town just because it's a nice little fellowship experience. Still believe in God. I still believe in like afterlife and things like that. But it doesn't mean like necessarily disown the church. Like I'm still very much well connected with a lot of people in it. I still get messages on my emails in terms of what they're doing. I still get told, like, do you want to go to Korea? They've got a big ceremony happening next year in June. I'm like, another holiday potentially. But, it's not like I've completely tapped out of it. It's just I'm still in the circles of friends who are still in it.
So you're like semi-part of the Unification Church.
I wouldn't say I'm semi-part of it, because being part of it, you need to tithe and give money and stuff. So no, I'm still connected, but I'm not practicing Unification member. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. When you say next generation, which you've said second gen a couple of times, like, is that kind of like the lingo within it, is like how many generations your family has been in the church?
No, I'm a second gen. So second generation church, Unification member. My kids, for example, if they wanted to be in the church, not that they are or anything, they would be third generation. And it's just a kind of the progression. It's like the tree. The bigger the tree grows, the more branches. Yeah.
Would you ever want your kids to be in it, or you wouldn't let them?
No, I think it's more, I want them to have their own experiences in life. I want them to experience what the world has on offer. Look, I mean, my oldest is already talking about doing his military in Finland, and that's like in 3 years time for him. So
how old's he?
He's 12.
Jeez.
Yeah, and for me, that's like I'd rather him go to Finland and do his military service for about 6 months and get that experience.
It's pretty ambitious.
Yeah,
for a 12-year-old.
Well, he's for him to keep the passport, and that's what he has to do.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. And at the same time, it's also important for them, like as a parent, to make sure that they get the right tools growing up. So then, like we don't do tablets. in restaurants. They sit, talk, engage.
Oh, I think that's very normal. I hate watching kids on iPads with headphones on in restaurants. I'm like,
Look, I'm not going to be the parent that will discuss about what parenting is, but I think it's important that children engage, because I was in a job where I've recruited young adults, and I had to untrain bad behaviors from upbringings, like kids on
Yeah,
phones
right.
and stuff like that. Like, I mean, like, unless you want to be on your phone on the reception desk for the whole day, I can give you 50 minutes paid every hour, and then the 10 minutes I don't pay you if you want to bring your phone on your desk. But if you want to get paid for the full hour, leave your phone in the back, and then you can go check it when you're ready. Things like that.
Mission leader Nick.
Yes. Anyways, I realize you can't be as tough with people, but at the same time, there's also a bit of, you just can't get people to pull you too much.
Nah, I'm going to come out and say, as a non-parent, that parents shouldn't be letting their kids sit on iPads at restaurants with the family, and they should be interacting with the family.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
I'm just going to put that out there. I think it's bad.
Yep. You heard it from him.
With all my parenting experience, if you're doing that, you're parenting wrong.
Look, I mean, like, there's no judgment here, right? Kids are tough. And sometimes parents don't have the tools to cope with a child that's having a tantrum. And so for them, the quickest way is, here's a phone. But if you keep doing that...
You're addressing the symptoms, not the cause of the issue.
Yeah. There's that famous comedian from the UK. What's his name? Jimmy
Carr?
Yeah. Someone in the audience a couple of weeks ago said, like, what's your advice about parenting? And he said, do it hard at the start. It'll be easier in the long term. But if you do it easy now, it'll be harder in the long term. Sorry.
Delayed gratification.
First 5 years, work hard. Don't give them the phone. Listen, talk. They'll have tantrums. Be there, be present. If you don't do it now, it'll just eventually be difficult for them in the long term.
So then you've left the church, or you haven't left the church per se, but you're kind of going on your own path. Then you realize, like, with the arranged marriage, it's not what you wanted, or it's like... is that something you want to get into? If you don't want to,
well, look, I mean, look, relationships go, like, sometimes you work on relationships, right? So with the children's mother, we were, I think, about 12, 13 years married. We tried hard to make it work. Things happened, and we did try therapy, and it got to a point where it just wasn't feasible. The question was, am I an effective father in the relationship or outside the relationship? And the question answered itself. I was like, I'm a better father outside this relationship. So I made that decision 8-9 years ago to leave. And yeah, I became a better person from that.
In the church's eyes, is that like a big no-no, or are they understanding of that? Or
yeah, definitely they want you to work on it, because, God wants you guys to be, work together. But it wasn't like, we're in Perth. The church in Perth is non-existent here. There's a handful of people still in the church, but there's no church services on Sunday.
Is that strategic? You purposely came to Perth because of that?
No. Perth was a decision for the children. It's between Sydney and Perth. Perth has a far better offering for families.
Less traffic.
Less traffic, 100%. But just in terms of the friendliness, you can go into any pub, restaurant with children, and people are like, yes, please. Sydney, you walk in there, you have Karens staring at you down. It's uncomfortable. I'm sure it's changed a little bit, but yeah, Sydney is very much, Perth is it's a family-friendly city, and I encourage people
to raise their family here.
100%.
That's what I'd want to do. I'd want to go live wherever, like in my later 20s, because I'm only 22, and then come back and raise family in Perth.
It's the best place. You've got so much on offer. Down south, up north, camping, anything. You just got everything here.
But the catch-22 is when you grow up in Perth, it's such a bubble to the real world, the outside world, and you're like, unless you travel and stuff, you don't actually like realize how different the world is.
100%. And like, that's why I encourage kids to travel. Like, my kids have gone to quite a lot of countries already, and I keep encouraging it, so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I guess when it comes to like your day-to-day now, and just kind of, yeah, do you see yourself moving forwards, like ever going back to any of it?
No, I think if anything, look, I appreciate fellowship. I appreciate people still go to church. There's a lot of good stuff that comes out of community. I've got friends still in different churches in Perth. And that fellowship is a key thing, especially for the current age that we are in right now with mental health and people feeling lonely and depressed, fellowship is a very big word right now. And I feel that if people do consider, going to a church, there's a lot of cool churches out there. It's not just, the hoo-ha, it's also the building connection, relationships. It's the weekdays, catch-ups for drinks or lunches and things like that. So I think church culture in Perth is it's big compared to over East. And yeah, I do encourage it. Did I answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, when you kind of look back on it all now, like what, I know it's a very meta question, but in terms of like takeaways from the whole experience and like how it's affected your life, like what would your biggest takeaway from it all be?
Resilience. And yeah, you will always face difficulties in life. And the difficulties are there for a reason. Yeah. So you go through it and you walk out of it like, wow, there was a lesson learned in this experience. Yeah. Resilience. Yeah. You just become stronger. Knowing that your issues are not as big as anyone else's issues. Like that's one thing I realized very quickly traveling through Eastern European bloc in Slovakia and Albania and Croatia, that, like very privileged. I'm so privileged wherever I am. Like the fact that I was born in Mexico, parents didn't have any money to feed us. Dad would pluck mangoes and avos off the trees and come home, and that would be our main staple for some time, and literally just barely getting through to the point where, Dad got the best job in a company in Sydney and we were flown business class from Canada to Sydney, lived in Neutral Bay, fancy apartment, things were just given to us. You appreciate life a lot more and just know that don't take things for granted. So those are the kind of things I've picked up in the life that I've had so far.
In terms of like a favorite place you've kind of done your either mission work or lived with your family or whatever, like is there one that stands out to you that's apart from Perth and Sydney? Like out of Australia?
Instead of Australia? Yeah. Look, I love Germany. Like the German efficiencies, the culture, the people, they can be tough, but I love it. And would love to live there if I could for some time. But the one country that really stood out for me out of all my travels was Iceland, of all places. And I do repeat this to quite a few people. It's like if you have the opportunity to go visit Iceland, very pristine culture, very pristine nature, but culture is very unique as well. People are interesting, and just, some place where you can just go there and just get lost in the midst of the nature that's out there. I landed at like close to midnight and walked out and I saw the Northern Lights. And I could just sit there and stand there for like an hour just watching it. It's a very unique country to visit, especially if you're an outdoors person.
Yeah, cool. Well, something I do ask all my guests when they come on this podcast now is tombstones. So when you die, right, you'll get a tombstone with limited character space. You got to be very picky with the words you put on it.
Okay.
And it's how you're remembered, basically.
Okay.
What would you put on your tombstone? Take as long as you need.
Yeah, I'll probably say for my kids.
He lived for his kids?
Yeah. Essentially, it is legacy kids.
Because that's what's important to you at the end of the day?
Yeah, it's not the medals, it's not the trophies, it's not the fast PBs in terms of anything I'm doing right now. It's at the end of the day, when I die, it's the legacy I'm leaving behind my children. No one's going to remember the wins I've had in life. No one will remember the staff award I got for like the best employee back in 2001, 2002. No one cares. It comes down to what you leave behind, your connections, your friendships, but most importantly, if you do have children, it's what you leave. It's your kids. Yeah. That's what I would put there.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, good question.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating seeing the different answers people have because it's always like people always try and find like a really clever thing to say or like to fit in on the limited space or whatever to be different. But at the end of the day, it's like just that generic thing that jumps out at you first that might not make a lot of sense, but just is right. Like you could say like he was like this or that or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's just like he lived for his kids.
That's it.
Which is awesome. Absolutely awesome. Nick, thank you very much for your time. This has been so interesting, and I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Thanks for having me on.
Is there anything you want to say to the people? Because I know normally I'll plug like people's socials or anything like that, but do you want to plug your socials, or like what do you want? What do you want the people to know?
Look, watch this space. I think I've got a lot of things I'm working on right now. I've got some big plans for next year, and definitely want to explore my potentials in the things that I'm enjoying in life. And so, yeah, watch the space. If you want to add me on social, you can. It's Hello Nico, NICCO on Instagram.
And LinkedIn. Don't forget the LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, that's where all the content's at. So yeah, just add me on LinkedIn as well. We'll drop a link on the podcast.
Awesome. Thanks very much for your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.